If you're thinking about buying an iFit enabled bike, then the NordicTrack S24 and the NordicTrack X24 would be great picks. However, the X24 bike is quite often 25% more expensive than the S24 bike. Is it 25% better? Well, they both run iFit software, which is my favorite software to use, especially in this iFit 2.0 iteration, and is one of the main reasons why I switched away from services such as Peloton. It really is exceptional. And I will link to my full reviews of both of these bikes at the end of this video, but I want to touch on the areas where these bikes are the same or very similar. And the first one is Smart Adjust, and that means when you're on one of these immersive workouts, as the ride gets more difficult, it will become harder to pedal these bikes, and as the rides become easier, it will become easier to pedal these bikes. The main difference is hills. So both bikes will change resistance when you get to a hill in a ride. However, the X24 bike will simulate that better by leaning backwards and becoming slightly more harder to pedal. When you're going downhill, it will lean forwards and it will become easier to pedal. So there's a more immersive element on the X24, especially if you like rides like mountain biking, for instance, than there is on the S24. And coming soon to both bikes is Active Pulse. And this is my favorite feature on the NordicTrack treadmills. In short, you have a heart rate monitor, I wear a Whoop, and the bike will want to keep you in certain heart rate zones throughout the workout. And if from your monitor, it sees that you're going out the top of your zone, it will decrease the intensity. Or if it feels like you're not working hard enough, it will make that workout slightly harder for you. Now, NordicTrack have told me this is imminent. I don't have a date for this, but it should be here soon, and it's a feature that I'm really looking forward to on these bikes. For off-the-bike workouts such as yoga or strength training, both of these screens will rotate 180 degrees in either direction, so it doesn't really matter where you are in the room. You can adjust the screen to face where you are. However, my preference is to use the app on a smart TV. And as you can see, the experience here through the television is a really good one. When you've got something in your room, say you've got a 50 or 60 inch TV in your room, I find that I like this better, basically. One area where they are quite different though is with the handlebars. So if I show you the handlebars on this, the X24 has a tray here for your phone, which I quite like, and also the weights can sit in there as well. It has these incline and decline buttons and resistance buttons here, which almost feel redundant now because with the iFit 2.0 software, you can make those adjustments on the screen anytime you want to. Plus, you'll more than likely be using the auto follow function. So I'm not sure if the bike kind of still needs these to be here because it does reduce hand positions. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hand positions on this bike, which feels enough. However, if I were to look at the S24, you can see it's got an extra bar here. And without those controls here, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different places to put your hands. These are slightly thinner as well. If you've got medium hands, you might like these better. I prefer this set of handlebars to the set of handlebars on the X24. Even though you lose the tray for your phone, you can buy a tray, and I've got a magnetic phone holder fitted here as well. The next thing I want to talk about is drivetrains and the differences in how they feel to ride. So let's start on the S24. The S24 here is set to 12, so it's kind of mid resistance. And if I'm going to pedal on this bike, the resistance feels good. It feels firm underfoot. I can feel that I'm working on this bike. If I were to take this up to its max resistance, which is 24, then yeah, I wouldn't be able to stay here very long. And yeah, it's difficult to pedal, basically. And one thing that you can get with these magnetic resistance bikes is if you start stamping down, the bike can almost lose form. You can be too heavy or too powerful for the bike. You're not going to outwork this one. Crikey. So let's get on to the X24. So the X24, side by side, I mean, marginally smoother. It is a slightly better drivetrain. Oh, however, if I wasn't A/B testing like this, I'm not sure that I would notice. Let's take it up to max. So when it's max setting, yeah, very much the same. I kind of feel like the drivetrain on this might be like 5% better than the drivetrain on that. At max setting though, there is another setting. If you take the incline up and start to simulate a hill, it gets even harder. So if you're somebody who needs the ultimate resistance, then riding this bike up a hill, I've had to have a 2-minute break. So with both bikes, they're very comfortable to be on, but there is a difference in adjustability. So I've got the seat on its maximum height here on the S25, and it's substantially different to the X24. I don't know anyone who would want a seat this high, but if you're the sort of person who likes, if you're really tall, then, and you want to be in like a road racing position, maybe you might want the seat this high. But if you want lots of adjustability, the X24 does have more adjustability in its seat. Same for the handlebars. So one thing I've noticed about the S24 is the handlebars don't go as high as the X24. So I'm 5'7". I feel like if you're up to about 6 foot, this is going to be perfect or fine for you. If you're kind of like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", then you may want the extra adjustability that you get on the X24 bike. And if you're thinking about buying either of these bikes, I'll put a link in the description. That will take you to the best price on NordicTrack's website, and it also helps support the channel. These videos take time to make, so using my link in the description is really appreciated. Thank you. There's also another couple of differences here. So the weight rack is at the back of the bike here on the S24 instead of the handlebars, which I prefer. If you find that your leg is touching the weight or this rack, you can just take that off. It's just 2 screws. The water bottle holder is also down here, which I like a lot. On the X24, the water bottle holder is here. So there's been a couple of times you've got 2 water bottles, which is good for longer rides, but there's been a couple of times when pedaling out the saddle that I just need a water bottle right across the gym into the wall. And the weight holders here are at the front of the bike, which you can see I haven't even got them in. I don't really use the weights. So they sit here, which I don't like as much, especially if you're not going to be using them. Another thing to note with these bikes is they do have a rider weight differential. So with the S24 bike, that has a max rider weight of 215 pounds. With the X24 bike, that goes up to 350 pounds. So that might be a factor for you if you're a larger rider. In conclusion, both of these bikes are new for 2025. However, I've been riding them for years because the X24 bike is the latest iteration of the S22 bike, what it was named before. They've improved things like a much better tablet now and a faster incline and decline motor. But essentially a lot of the components are the same. And they've done a really good job with this bike because the S22i was such a good bike. I don't think they should have messed around with it, and they haven't. They've just made incremental upgrades. I would have liked to see a better set of handlebars on this bike now for 2025, just because I feel like the controls on the handlebars are a little bit outdated and unneeded. But overall, I would describe this as a 10 out of 10 bike with a 10 out of 10 tablet. It really is that good. The S24, however, is based on the Proform bike. So Proform and NordicTrack are under the same umbrella, and that was previously the C22 Pro bike, which I described as a 7 out of 10 bike with a 10 out of 10 tablet. However, things have changed. So this bike is substantially better than that bike. In my full review, I'll go through all the changes, but this bike, as you know, has a 10 out of 10 tablet. It's no longer a 7 out of 10 bike. I would say this bike is probably an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 bike. So the difference between the old versions of these bikes was quite easy for me to say, if you've got the budget, go for this one. However, the difference in quality now is closer than it's ever been. And that means where I would say normally at the end of a video like this is you're not going to buy this bike and wish you'd bought this bike. But will you buy this bike and wish you'd bought the more expensive one? That's what I would normally say. But because they're so close now, I'm not going to, I've just said it, I know, but I'm not going to say it. I think the question is really, how long are you going to keep the bike? So if you look at the membership cost and say you're going to keep these bikes 5 years, when you add the cost of the membership, always biannually or 2 yearly or 3 yearly, because you save a fortune on membership, the percentage difference between these bikes gets really small, which may lean you towards this bike. But if you really don't value the extra incline and decline features that this bike has, and you think you would prefer a more kind of hand-friendly set of handlebars on a bike, there's nothing wrong with these, they're good, but these I think are better, then that might lean you to this bike. And also sometimes the price between these bikes is substantially different. So if the price is close when you click on the link in the description, thank you, helps the channel, then maybe just lean towards this bike because it's not gonna make that much difference. But if there's a vast difference in price, I mean, I'd be happy with either, to be honest. So where I would go from here is to watch this review up here, which is my full review of this bike, or this review here, which is my full review of this bike. This will give you more of an in-depth feel for both bikes. And at the end of whichever video you watch, I will link you then into the other video. So you've got a real good overview of which bike you should buy. Well, I hope you found this video useful. And until next time, whether I see you here or here, see you soon.